Welcome to the podcast from HeadHunters Northwest. HeadHunters Northwest, specialized recruiting, specialized approach, where we take you behind the scenes into our customers' businesses. For over 20 years, HeadHunters Northwest has served the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors worldwide. Listen in as we discuss the inner workings of our USA and international customers. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.
Okay, welcome to HeadHunters Northwest podcast. If you are listening to this is, and don't have the benefit of the video today, we have 3 guests. This is my first channel podcast that I've been planning and wanting to do for well over a year. So this is just, I have 3 guinea pigs, actually, I guess is what you would say. So I'm going to introduce them, but I wanted our audience to know that is listening on iHeartRadio or Apple Podcast or Spotify, that we're going to try really hard to let you know who's answering the questions. But this is what I would call our CMO podcast. So our chief marketing officers, each one of these professionals are exceptional in their own right. And this podcast is about AI and how it affects marketing. So we started this discussion off with the thought of taking AI, and I asked AI to give me a list of questions, and we got a huge amount of questions from AI. And then we narrowed it down to the few questions we humans thought that the other humans would want to know and discuss about AI. So bear with us because we have the benefit of Claude by Anthropic that has helped us with our subject, but I'm thrilled we have humans with real life experience to answer these. So stay on the line if you want to learn about AI and what our chief marketing officers in the outdoor industry and shooting sport think about this. So I want to introduce Jennifer Tuttle. Jennifer is one of our panelists. She has 3 decades of experience in marketing with the past 10 plus years in the firearms industry. She holds an undergraduate degree in psychology and a master's degree in marketing, focusing on the relationship between consumer behavior and brand strategy. That's pretty important. Colleagues recognize her ability to address complex projects and her willingness to be hands-on in her work. I can attest to that. I've seen Jennifer's work. In response to the need for high-level project assistance in the industry, she recently began offering fractional marketing services independently through her company called Ravenspire Consultancy. And we will have all of our panelists' links so you can access them and hire them and talk to them and tap them for their expertise. That will all be available on our website and also on anywhere you find this information posted. My next guest is Josh. Oh, dear Josh, I forgot to ask you to help me pronounce your last name. Can you do that?
Yeah, it's Froelich.
Froelich. Oh, yes, I would have butchered that. Thank you, Josh. Josh is a business owner and a serial entrepreneur, and he has a passion for growing businesses. Josh focuses on growing his companies and helping clients grow their businesses through quality marketing strategies and strategic sales efforts. With a background in the tech industry, he is no stranger to all things tech as it relates to running a business. And you can find his work at f5productions.com. And our third panelist is Kristin Marlow, who I'm so pleased to introduce. Really, Kristin has helped me put this together, and without her encouragement, I probably couldn't have gotten this panel together. So thanks to Kristin, she introduced me to Josh. So I'm just thrilled to have her join us. She is a chief marketing officer with 25 years experience in strategic brand and performance marketing, including specialized expertise in the firearms industry. She notably served as CMO for Staccato, where she led the strategic rebrand from STI and spearheaded the company's digital transformation by launching their direct-to-consumer gun e-commerce. Well, that was a whopper project. Kristin's broader experience includes leadership positions in global digital agencies and working with brands like Visa, T. Rowe Price, and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. On a personal note, Kristin is a mom to a high schooler and an active member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And you can find Kristin on LinkedIn. We're going to make sure we put her link in there. She has amazing experience and everyone in their right. So thank you, all of you, for being on this podcast. So let's get started with our first question. And I'd like for you each to kind of chime in. Where do you see the biggest gap between AI hype and actual practical application in marketing today? Who wants to be the guinea pig to start?
I'll jump in. This is Jennifer. I think there are two misleading concerns from AI hype. The first is that marketing departments or jobs can be replaced by AI. The second is that AI is a function you can turn on and not have to manage. But the reality is neither is really true. AI in marketing must be a managed collaboration that cannot take out the human element. It should be seen as an essential driver of marketing efficiency and brand performance that will help increase the output of marketing teams, granting them more time for creativity and innovation, those two things that we never have enough time for. Rather than seeing AI as a threat to your job based on its abilities to replace human efforts, instead, we really must see AI as a required skill set to be competitive in your role. According to studies performed last year by Ad Age, 91% of marketers are reporting the use of AI in homes right now, with 69% saying it will create more job opportunities versus replace them. So I think in summary to this question, we need to do a better job of educating ourselves on AI and the direct benefits it has on marketing.
Yeah, good points, Jennifer. And it's a scary topic. I mean, it's definitely a topic more than several times a week. I see posts on saying, oh, AI is bad, or AI is this, or it's going to eliminate jobs. I'm glad to hear you say that. Kristin, you were shaking your head yes in agreement. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, well, you should just know I'm a big head nodder, agreeing with what people say. So, that doesn't mean I want to be called on, but I'll no. Happy to. I mean, I think a big thing is that a lot of people, it's late 2022 with ChatGPT and, really 2023, everybody says, oh my gosh, this is AI. And it's definitely this new form of it with, generative AI and this idea that, it can do creative content and it can, and there are so many possibilities. But if we go back, I mean, AI has been around, for quite some time. And now I'll really date myself too, saying, I used to work in digital agencies, like kind of at the beginning of the internet. And so much of what we were doing was data-driven marketing and looking at how do different campaigns work and perform, and for that matter, using machine learning to essentially help us have better segmentation of customers, help us better understand which content, which ads to be served to different segments, and then looking at the attribution models around those. And so there's just like one part of the premise is that AI has been around and a big part of marketing for a long time. And now it's just even more so. It's just amped up in many other ways, and it's truly baked into things. And in our industry, where you can't use some of those data-driven tools like programmatic media, you can a little bit, but definitely so many of our people in our industry or companies are really collecting first-party data and really building up their email databases to really have this sustained connection and relationship and communication streams with their customers. And we see a lot of AI is already baked into the tools that allow us to do that. So for instance, in Klaviyo and HubSpot, there's a lot of AI already in there. So I'll just say that I think that's just another misconception, is that AI equals generative AI, and there's much more to it. Now, that creates a whole host of other issues and challenges for us as marketers. But I think, just as Jennifer said, that education to the public to say, or to the industry to say that there's a lot more to it than just what the quote hype is. The hype is real and it's amazing, but there's a long foundation of marketing using these sorts of tools.
Yeah. Good point. What do you think, Josh?
I think that anytime there's something new, everybody gets all fired up and they think, wow, this is going to wreck the industry. Wow, this is going to make the industry better. Wow. Like the fact is, we're all going to need to use the new tools because they're the new tools. Like when computers were implemented over typewriters, guess what? You had to become a computer user. Like it's part of life. And you use that, Jennifer, you use the terminology increase output. That's how we use AI today. We increase output. And sometimes we get a little bit better quality because of it, because maybe, I'm thinking just like around content production very specifically on this, but like when we were doing everything manually, there were times where it's like, there's a good enough, like that's pretty good. That's about right. That's about what we wanted. But when you can go with AI with less time, you can tune a few things and you can get a little bit more out of it with a little less time. And so the way we're looking at these tools is like, we're not replacing anything with them, but we're going to increase our output and we're going to expect a higher quality deliverable based on the fact that we have better tools now. And that's just the way we're looking at it. It's a tool and we're going to use that tool because it applies to the business. It applies to every business, by the way. And so it's not marketing. It's every piece of the business is going to interact with some level of AI. And so it's just another tool that we have to get good at. And so that's the way we're looking at it. Increase output, expect a little higher quality out of our final deliverables, whatever those might be. And that could even just be tailored marketing approach. Like where you referenced, Kristin, like I need to segment this marketing effort toward that consumer pinpoint, like dialed to the fine detail. Great. Let's use AI. Let's fine tune it. Let's dig in where maybe that would have taken 100 hours before. Now it's 2, now it's 3, and we can use real data and dig through it faster. So it's not magic. I don't look at it as magic. It's just another tool we get to use.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So how do you balance efficiency gains, which is kind of a little bit about the input from AI with need to maintain human creativity and strategic thinking? I think you guys have touched on that a little bit, but do you guys have any specific examples that, I don't know, you probably have a better example. I'm thinking press releases, social media posts, right? You can't just put stuff into AI and then not check it because sometimes it vomits out garbage.
Yes. If you don't mind, this is Kristin. I'll jump into that. I mean, that's one thing that I think is so interesting. I mean, it's amazing the efficiency that you can, the possibilities, as Josh said, definitely refining content, possibly creating content. But there's something to be said that just because you can doesn't mean that it's going to be the best output. And one of the things that I think is, every brand should be experimenting with creating their own GPT, really in their brand voice, because that truly can save so much time when it comes to, because we're in an industry that devours content. They're like, we need more content. And so using AI can truly help us, have a means to produce more on-brand content, whether it's like copy for social or whether it's, creating emails. And it can also help us create content calendars, and really keep us all on track. But it then goes back to this idea of, okay, so we can have more and more efficiency, but is it going to be the right kind of content or the right timing that's truly going to resonate with our customers? So just because we can and produce so much more, volume doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the right quality. And so like the role of the CMO really needs to be do we know the brand fundamentals? Do we know how our product is differentiated? Do we know what our customers need? We need to, if we're going to build our own GPT, for instance, to help output, copy, we need to be able to train it so that it has the correct, guidelines. We need to be able to train it and curate then the output so that then the content coming out is actually something that resonates with our end customers or grows that relationship. So you could end up with, just as you said, Shaylene, like a lot of garbage in, garbage out. You could end up with a sea of content that's not differentiated and doesn't resonate with somebody. And that could be, that keeps our job in place. So that will keep us all working and shepherding brands and bringing products to market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually look at AI in this regard as like a new team member that's a rock star, but we need to steer them, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we got someone new. They're super, super sharp. Awesome. But left alone, they don't know the brand. They don't know our people. They don't know the customer. They only know what they've been taught, and we have to teach it. And so like when I look at the tools, I'm going rock star, got it. Let's make sure we feed it the right stuff. And let's make sure we're over the shoulder a little bit, not necessarily micromanage, but before I drop anything to the world that AI is kicked out, like let's set some guardrails and let's set some review time, make sure it does truly align. Like do a gut check. Does that feel like us? Does that feel like the brand? Like if it doesn't, then that we got to get back to, training the tools, making sure that they understand what we're trying to ask. And some of that just becomes, I need to send better prompts. I need to better at using the tools, right? Because that's a big part of it too. The same tool, if I ask it to do something a couple different ways, I'm going to get different results, right? And so, it's a working relationship, just like a rockstar team member would be. And so just looking at it like that, it's not something new. It's like we've hired great people before, right? And we needed to steer that talent in the direction that we want it. AI is pretty similar.
This is Jennifer, just jumping in. I feel like we could go down a rabbit hole with this one specific topic, but Shaylene and I were talking before we jumped on the podcast about our industry. Specifically, there are a lot of brands out there that really are suffering from lack of quality and brand consistency to begin with. So you add in this AI element and it becomes a little scary. So, anybody that's out there listening that wanted to learn more about AI, my suggestion is get your house in order first before you introduce the AI. These are the things we're talking about. Establish your foundation, develop a brand style guide, clearly define your brand essence, define your customers, know your archetype, know your personality and voice, and stay on course with your brand compass. I know, Kristin, you probably, and Josh as well, you probably talk to brands out there, and I have certainly, where one of the first questions I ask them is, do you know who your customer is? And the answer is no, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. So, you have to have these building blocks in place before you start onto a venture like AI and using, Josh's word. Then you have the guardrails set up when introducing AI. AI doesn't have emotion or empathy or understand those human behavioral traits, but the comprehensive brand style guide, you're going to be able to control those aspects that AI simply can't.
Just to, I don't mean to pile on so much, Jennifer, but I couldn't agree more with everything you're saying. I mean, I think it's so interesting because our industry is full of people who are so passionate about our products, about our lifestyle, about our communities. And it's interesting, but there is sometimes this disconnect of, for a business to know who is your customer and for a business to know what is our identity and how are we different? How are we tapping into that, really passionate community? And so then what ends up happening if you don't have those fundamentals in place, just as you're saying, I feel like you end up at the sea of same, everything, a lot of things look the same. A lot of times you even have the same influencers working with different companies. And that's okay because it's all part of the community. But if we don't have those fundamentals defined, you end up with almost it just becomes noise in some ways. And then you add this like super rock star new team member, as Josh said, AI, who's like, I can make 50 of them. we're going to end up with volumes of the same. And that's, then it just becomes even more noise to try to cut through to really connect with the community.
I feel like it's worth making one more point. If you guys know me, Shaylene knows me, I am a research nerd. When I don't know enough about something, I will research the heck out of it. And I found this really awesome statistic. I think it was an Ad Age where the website or the business care.com did a study and they employed AI within their marketing team. They didn't go into specifics what they were using, but I assume it was a lot of content creation, probably a lot of data analytic type stuff. Their study resulted in a 25% time savings. Not for one person, the team. Quarter of the team's time was saved because of AI.
And isn't that so that you can do more strategic work? You can do higher level work. Because think of the mundane crapola that AI can help you with. And the idea is to use the tool. And like you guys have said, which I would never have thought of, training it in your brand voice, right?
Yeah.
That way you guys can do the higher level strategic stuff, and so can your team.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's the good stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Good discussion. So how do you think the CMO role will evolve as AI becomes more sophisticated? Because what do you think your teams are going to look like? I would really like to kind of be as specific as we can, and no one expects you guys to know the future. But a lot of people are really concerned about this. And, there have been seminars and conferences I've gone to where they've said, if you don't embrace this, you're going to be out of a job. So I'd love your thoughts as the leader of your departments, because you all are. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I believe, and I'm already starting to see this, that with more and more, you mentioned the word noise. I heard that come up a couple times in the last 30 seconds, minute and a half. And I do think there's going to be more and more noise that doesn't have a personality or brand feel behind it online. And I already trust internet and digital content a little less than I did a year or two ago, just because not all of it's real. Some of it's just generated by some that, and they're making them, most of them today are saying something silly. So you sort of get it. Like, this isn't real, but they're really good. And so I truly believe that in the next 5 years, I bet all my cards on it, that we're going to be moving into a phase of more experiential marketing. And people want people connections. And so where AI is going to be pumping 30 videos a day on the social channels for some brands that may or may not hit the mark, they're just counting on volume. I think the strongest brands are going to have very clear messaging. They're going to invite their target market to experiences for hands-on touch, feel, meet people. And we're going to move a ton of product and influence people face to face, just like the old days, because people are going to trust the digital stuff less and less. And so that's what I'm investing heavily in: event-focused marketing, face to face. People trust people. People trust machines way less when they don't know there's actually a person behind it or it's not real. And so I just think the more sophisticated AI becomes, one, yeah, we can tailor it, we can get it to do our brand messaging and all that stuff, but people will be looking for those authentic connections. And I think being really, really good event teams that are putting on events that move the needle with whatever it is we're trying to move the needle on with that client, for that client, if we're really, really good at that, I think that's going to be, that's what we're investing in at F5 through facilities and event hosting stuff, all of it. We've invested a ton of time and energy because we believe that's the future. Is people want to engage with people.
Yeah. And for
Yeah.
I'll jump in next. It's Jennifer again. I think it's a wake-up call for CMOs. We in any leadership position in marketing, I think there's skills that need to be improved. You need to demonstrate those. You need to understand, what the implications of AI is. What are the tools? What are the opportunities? And be able to sell it within your company, because some of these are expensive. So, you need to be able to prove ROI on these things. But the one thing that I kept coming across, and call me a nerdy, but the one bit that I came across, specifically related to CMOs, is awareness of the ethical and legal barriers when it comes to AI. I mean, especially because, the more we collect consumer data, the more we enter into that danger zone of privacy. So there's certainly a lot of awareness that we need to possess and educate ourselves on.
Yeah, and this is Kristin. I'll just also just echo a little bit that I feel like for the CMO, it really does have to become this. Well, I love, Jennifer, how you said that it's a wake up call, and I feel like that in many, particularly in this industry, we're literally right now we're in a very soft market, and we know that there are macro factors that contribute to that, and so it's actually, in addition to AI, we're just in a time where we say, have the way we've been going to market, is it sustainable in all different kinds of markets? And in those kinds of wake up moments, it's important to go back to those fundamentals and then leverage new tools and new kind of techniques in a good way to make sure we're doing what we're trying to do, which is to connect, with the right segments of people, grow relationships, which then grow, lead to sales. And so I'm meandering a little bit, but definitely everything you said, Jennifer, I completely agree with. And Josh, I think that there is something to be said of certainly that in person, what better way to connect with somebody and for them to understand what your brand is or how wonderful your product is by being in person. But you can complement that with that's data capture and then how to deploy that, or content capture and data, and how do you deploy that over the long run to really strengthen and grow those relationships. But as Jennifer said too, to do that in a way where we're respecting the privacy of this community that's incredibly passionate, but also doesn't want necessarily things, broadcast all along the way. So those are my musings and trying to think of, what Josh, Jennifer were saying. I mean, but just it's a very interesting inflection point for all of us.
Yeah. And I think, if you guys are all on, social media channels for your personal use, and I'm finding, there's so much discussion on LinkedIn back and forth about AI and how some people hate it. And I have resisted my desire to comment, as Josh put it, where I've wanted to say, like, oh, you can hate it all you want, but the computer's here to stay, right? Because I think you do have to make peace and figure out how you're going to become valuable. So I have two more questions that I wanted to cover. One is our fourth question that we chose. And then I have one last question for the group. And it's not a trick question, but something that will come up in discussion in the last couple of weeks with marketing professionals and recruiting departments effects. So this other question is, what advice would you give to marketing professionals who feel threatened by AI advancements? And I know you guys have addressed some of this. And if you feel like we've covered it, we can move on. But I think this is a real thing.
It is.
Go ahead, Kristin.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, there's a Harvard professor who says that your job won't be. Now I'm going to butcher her quote, but essentially it's that your job isn't going to be replaced by AI. Right. However, it may be replaced by a person who knows how to use AI. So I think that. So again, sorry that that's not the verbatim quote, but I think that's something that all of us as marketers need to constantly be learning and geeking out, like Jennifer, researching things over and over. And I like to do that too. And so it's something that the more we can understand how these tools work, the better we can shepherd them, through our organizations to drive efficiency and, have better output for smaller teams. But then also it really then gets us closer to, okay, what have we not thought of that's possible with this technology? And that's always where the really exciting stuff happens, because we don't even know truly what we could be doing, but that has to be done by marketers and people in a business who understand the uses, but also understand their business and how to apply it.
I'll jump in. It's Jennifer again. My advice is don't feel threatened. Embrace it. Educate yourself. Quick story. About a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, I have this amazing friend who knows who he is, that is a CMO in our industry. And we were having a conversation on the phone, as we always do. And he's like, look out for AI. It's radically going to change the space. Those that adapt will succeed, stand out from the competition, like we talked about, and it's going to leave the rest of us behind who aren't adapting. So, my journey was it piqued my interest. I had zero comment. I was like, okay, cool. So then I started looking into it. And, my first exposure was in grad school writing papers. There's this little button, it's 3 a.m. and you're trying to finish that marketing plan that's due tomorrow. There's this cute little button that's right there for you to push. And I considered it plagiarism at the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm going to be caught. It's cheating. I really want to make sure I learn. But over time, I started to understand and appreciate, when you have a brain fart and, you're stuck and you're trying to come up with this great creative copy. It's like, the adage that I use with my team, there are no stupid ideas. Throw something at it and it comes back with, all of these different cool ideas that you can pluck from and then morph. So there's these really cool opportunities. Dig into it, learn it, educate yourself, go do your homework, do some research, get inspired, find other company examples. I mean, that's where my journey started to go. And it's one of those things that I'm looking at. I'm not going to live without it. I can't wait the next time they get to implement, an AI tool and see where it can take a brand.
Good feedback. Josh?
Yeah, I'm sick of being scared of anything. Like when it comes to new tools or like new process software, I remember I'm not that old, but even in business, when I first was working for other people, it was like, we wrote stuff down on paper. It's like, a lot has changed in the last 20 years. A lot more is going to change in the next 20. It's not something worth putting a wall up about. It's like, okay, these are the tools we use now. Like, let's get good at them. If we're struggling, like, hey, let's grab someone on our teams or hire someone with the competency that can help us understand the tools that people are using that loves this stuff. I've got my lead videographer is an AI nerd. He loves this stuff, loves going into it. He's like, look at what this can do. And I'm like, that's pretty neat, actually. I didn't know we could do that inside of the software tools we already use. And so like, I just keep an open mind to it. The last thing you want to do is shut it down because we're going to stop growing if we do. And just learn the tools. This is part of how business is going to be done over the next 20 years. So let's get good at it.
I think that's great advice. That's really good advice, Josh. So my last question is based on real life interactions I've had in the last couple of weeks. So I've had a couple calls recently. One I have come to mind that a manufacturer in our industry decided that they're cutting their marketing budget, which blows my mind because the industry's soft. I think that's counterintuitive, but what do I know? I'm only a recruiter. And they have decided to eliminate their VP of marketing role. So VP of marketing and product development. Again, I can't grasp it. And they're going to do with a director. Now, you and I both know they're probably going to want to try or hire a director for a director's pay, but still that person's going to get this whole list of crapola that needs to be done. Yep. So in my experience over the last many 100 years, it seems like sales is important, and Jennifer, you and I have talked about this, but marketing and branding is the shining star to everything. In my humble, again, only recruiter, but as a business owner, I can tell you that the majority of my investment goes towards marketing, good or bad. That's where I spend the money, because if no one knows about me, how will they hire me? And I think this is true of the products that we make and the services that we offer. So my question to the panel is, since I cannot articulate as nicely as you, I would love to know why you think or don't think that marketing budgets should be cut during a soft period in our industry. To me, it seems counterintuitive. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I would like to specifics as to why that should or shouldn't happen. Knock yourselves out.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I'll tell you the one that I've used in the last couple of weeks, and it's real. And, from running a business, I know that it's actually how it works. And so like in a soft market, many clients, and not our clients, hopefully, but many folks will be cutting marketing budgets. They just will. And so if we don't, and our clients don't, there are dollars being spent. Yeah, the market's a little softer, but we want as many of those dollars spent with us as possible. And so if half of the market goes quiet and we're out there still repping the brand, still part of the community, still doing what we've always done, now all of a sudden we get market share. You know what happens when the market gets strong again? We've still got market share. And so like the last thing we ever want to do is get quiet when we're hurting a little bit, because when things are good, we're going to be quiet then too. Like people are going to be, oh, you're back, huh? Like people must be spending money. Like you don't want that. Like you just want to be consistent. And so I think maybe you don't need to double down right now, but maybe you just keep consistent and you keep your messaging out there. And when you do that, you gain market share because everybody else is quiet. And it's really good for your long-term business. And so that's the way that we're looking at it. That's the way I run it at our companies, is just we run consistent marketing. It's our job to be present in the industries we serve. If we're not, we're failing. That's the way I look.
What a good way to express that. Because in my experience, if I'm not at those trade shows in person, meeting people, being in front of people, it's real easy to be forgotten. Same thing is true of great brands. If you're not out there in front of people, there's so much noise, as you guys have pointed out. What do you guys think about that, Jennifer or Kristin?
I think it's Jennifer again. I think, Kristin talked about this earlier. From a competitive standpoint, it's your opportunity to stand out. Don't be a sheep. Don't do what everybody else is doing. They pull back in the summertime when it's soft. Here's your opportunity to gain market share. Gosh, then why wouldn't you want that opportunity? But sadly, that's what happens. But furthermore, think about some of the applications that we have running in marketing. It needs that level of consistency. Take SEO, for example. SEO takes time and it needs consistency. So if you're pulling back on stuff like that, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, no pun intended. That's my point of view. Is I have never really understood. We sit here and we watch it, and it just makes me want to pull my hair out. Don't do that.
And this is Kristin. I think just another, as Jennifer said before, like a wake up moment. Like, so maybe I can understand that need for, this perception that, okay, we've been spending all this money and now we're in a soft market and nothing's moving the needle. So, but the other way to turn that, another way to look at that is to say, well, are we spending the money on the right things? So maybe the way that we've been going to market, works great when you're in a healthy, vital market. But maybe when things are soft, we need to, again, as we've said so many times on this podcast, go back to the fundamentals and say, okay, do we really know what we're saying and how we're going to market? And maybe we should reallocate some of that spending to, for instance, as Josh said, in-person experiences, so that then we're capturing content in a more authentic way and serving that back to people. This might be the you definitely never want to go dark, but there is something to be said that maybe it becomes more of a strategic marketing next question as opposed to just a spend question. And the spend, it does, maybe it's a bias of mine, but it does feel that so much of our industry is just about push, and then reduce price. That's going to move the needle, and that's not. So how do you go back and say, okay, how do we pull people to us? And maybe that is more through in-person experiences. And yes, maybe complement that with some price reductions or promotions, but make the promotions have life and have fun, and not just assume that everybody is just buying based on price. So
right. I love that, but I also think that you were going down this path of there's not as much noise when your competitors are pulling back, take that opportunity to test.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a great opportunity when there's not as much noise going on. So, utilize your and test to make sure that everything is working. If something's not working, here's your opportunity to test it out, to see something else. So I think, it's see it as an opportunity, not necessarily. I mean, it is a frustration for us because it happens to all of us, but take the opportunity to really kind of focus.
Yeah, great input,
Absolutely.
you guys. Thank you. Well, I can't thank you enough. You guys are amazing. And I hope everyone who's listening or watching this video gets in touch with each of these professionals, because each of them offers a different strength. And obviously, they care very much about the industry and their businesses. So I would encourage you to reach out to them. And if for any reason you cannot find the links on our website or you need to reach them, you can always call me and I'll put you in touch with them. But thank you, everyone, for being on this first panel, this CMO discussion. This is a big check the box for me. I've been wanting to support the organization this way or the industry this way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was
I
awesome.
think
so much.
that's going to wrap up this issue of the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. We look forward to having all of our listeners participate, listen in the next one. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach. You can reach out at headhuntersnw.com or call 605-600-1709. Join us again next week as we look behind the curtain into the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.